Okay guys, I'm gonna go ahead and kick off episode number 2 of Top Producers Only. I want you guys to know that no matter what industry you are in, I'm going to prove that most of the sales skills you've been taught are almost, maybe on a large scale, completely outdated. And I really mean that. I've proven that company after company, well over 300 companies, well over 20,000 people. I've proven that time and time and time again. I have not been to one office where I've not been able to show that a lot of their sales skills, and I don't mean their talent. I'm not talking about the talent of the individual. The talent is pure. There's a lot of great talent out there, okay? I'm talking about skills. Skills are learned. Skills are earned. So no matter what industry you're in, pay attention to episode 2 because I'm going to show you how your skills are outdated and how that's having a massive impact on your paycheck. Let's go. Not everyone has what it takes to get to the top, but for those of you willing to do whatever it takes, this is for you. So I walked into, guys, I like to shop. I'm not gonna lie, I like to shop. And I live near South Coast Plaza here in Orange County, California, which is one of the nicest malls in the entire country. And I have lots of friends there, you know, I've been shopping there for years, and I walked into, I'm not gonna name the name or the people, but I walked into a high-end, kind of a luxury store that I shop at because I really like the brand and I like the way it fits me. And one time I was there, the regional manager of this retail store was there at this luxury store. And I walk in and they're like, hey, what's up, dude? I'm like, good, good, how you guys doing? They're like, hey, we really want to introduce you to so-and-so. She is the regional director for the entire, Southern California of this particular luxury store. So I'm like, cool, bring her out, let me meet her, I'd love to meet her. She comes out and she's like, hey, Joe, I've heard about you, how are you? And I basically got introduced as a sales coach, and it's kind of weird because when I get introduced as a sales coach, people automatically feel that they have this obligation to begin talking about their business. So she's like, as you can see, we do things differently here. We hire completely differently. We have a really unique training program, and we don't follow the same lead of other stores. We're trying to create a completely unique experience for our clientele. And she just went on for like probably a good 2 or 3 minutes, sort of bragging, but being real cute about it. Very professional, by the way, very well dressed, very well put together, and so forth. And she was just excited to tell me about all the unique things they have done. Anyway, when she finally stopped talking, my response was this: no, you don't. That was it. No, you don't. You don't hire unique, you don't train unique, you don't communicate unique. And the look on her face was priceless, guys. It was priceless. I mean, I wish I could have taken a freaking selfie with her. When she was kind of like, what do you mean? And I'm like, you don't. Nothing you do is unique. And I'm not trying to be rude. I just want to prove it to you. So we took a walk around the mall, and I showed her how no matter what store you go into, whether high-end, medium, or low, everybody's pretty much greeted the same, using the same words to say hello, etc., etc. I'll give you guys an example. So you walk into a retail store, right? You guys have all shopped before in retail stores. And you're walking around and you see these like salespeople kind of like awkwardly like moving toward you, and they're slowly getting closer and closer and closer. And what do? They come up to you and they're like, hi, is there anything I can help you find? Are you looking for anything in particular today? Etc., etc., etc. And when you hear that, your response 88% of the time is what? Oh, no thanks, I'm just looking. Oh, I'm just browsing. Oh, thank you, etc., etc., right? Now, what the sales agent doesn't realize and the customer doesn't realize is that when they say, hey, is there anything I can help you with? Can I help you find anything specific? Are you looking for a particular size? Those 5 lines. Now, the weird thing is, there's thousands and thousands of people in retail. They come from all different backgrounds, all different educational levels, all different ethnicities, right? Personality types. Why do they all use the same 5 lines? When they use those 5 lines, customers recognize them, and it turns your customer into a resistant state, meaning they can walk into your store completely willing to buy, but they don't because they hear the same phrases that most commission-paid salespeople use, and that puts them in a resistant state. Let me give you guys another example. So you guys know I started coaching in 2006, summer of 2006, okay? And a lot of my clients early on were mortgage companies, and they still are. I would say about 30% of my business is mortgage. And what was really fascinating to me is I could walk into a mortgage company and basically, not knowing anybody there, even if I didn't know any of the sales agents, I could walk into a mortgage company and basically I could recite how they begin their phone calls, how they sell to customers. And I would be like, how many of you start your phone calls like this? Blah, 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 blah. And they'd raise their hands. How many of you ask these questions? Blah, 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 blah. And they'd raise their hands. And I'd be like, how many of you close like this? Blah, 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 blah. And they'd raise their hands. And everybody would just be looking at each other, smiling, kind of like laughing, because we're like, oh crap, like we all sound the same on the phone. So, you know, the name of your company might be unique, and you might brag about your standards or your guidelines or your product, etc. But the customer doesn't want to hear that ultimately. And the reason that you all sound the same in your particular industries is because you've been trained by people who have come before you. Does that make sense? You've been trained by people who sold before you, and they were trained by people who sold before them. And so those sales skills were handed down from sort of, you know, mini generation to mini generation. Now, the problem with that is, as we as humans are, by the way, the most adaptive creature in the world. We're the most adaptive. No matter where you put us, I mean, if you put us on Mars, if we could actually survive there, eventually we would adapt. We're the most adaptive creatures. Now, what does that mean if you're in sales or if you own a company or you're an entrepreneur? Here's what it means. Basically, we do not behave, act, buy, or even socialize like we used to. Okay, we progress as a race, and this has really been a big deal, I would say, over the past 5 to 7 years or so. So these days, people are being sold all the time. They're being sold on the phone, they're being sold by email, they're being sold over the internet, they're being sold on Facebook, they're being sold on banners, they're constantly being sold. But we could say, in general, in a large scope, that people are being sold about 100 times more than they were 10 years ago. They're constantly being sold. So over that time, what happens? They start to memorize how salespeople sell. And they can no longer tell if that salesperson is being sincere and genuine and really trying to help them solve a problem or find the right product or solution, or if that person is just trying to earn a commission. Does that make sense to you guys? So people adapt to the way that you sell. So somebody brought up the other day at one of my clients, dude, I really like to use the feel, felt, found. Like, I love feel, felt, found. I really do. I love all of those things that I learned from books that are fucking outdated. But the truth of the matter is, how many sales agents know that close? A lot of them know that close, okay? It's not a secret, all right? Though that shit has been in books for like years and years and years and years and years, and it's spread. And it's spread so much that your customers have adapted, all right? Now, most of the companies I walk into, they lose about 88% of their qualified business, whether you're a retail store or you're doing B2B over the phone, or you're a mortgage company or a business lending company or a debt settlement company, or you sell luxury items, whatever it is. They lose about 88% of their qualified business because they're using sales patterns that have been handed down to them from the generation before them. Okay, guys? Now, there's 3 reasons that your sales skills have kind of become outdated. The first reason is because of technology. Technology has obviously changed the way that we communicate. It's also given us access to a lot of information, and it's created a lot more leads for salespeople. So that's one reason that people are being far more bombarded by sales agents than they were before. You also have social media and the behavioral changes in social media. So we're also being sold on social media, and that has led to a change in our consumption behavior, the way we like to buy things, what we like to hear, what we're willing to believe, and who we're willing to trust. We know that people are sold way more than they ever have before. And let me give you an example. I'm going to try to use an example having to do with time, okay? Having to do with time and how quickly markets have changed in the recent years compared to just 10 to 15, 20 years ago. Let's do this. So you might say in the 80s, you might say that consumer adaptation, let's say, changed at about 55 miles per hour. Okay? So let's call that cruising. You're cruising, which means if your sales skills stayed the same during the 80s, it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a big deal. Customers were not adapting that fast. They were not evolving that fast. Technology wasn't evolving that fast, et cetera, the economy of things. However, move to the 90s, and we got a little bit more of a progression there. So instead of 55 miles per hour, let's say consumer behavior was changing at about 65 miles per hour. All right? That's 65 miles per hour. So that's how fast consumer behavior was changing, let's say, in the 90s. Now let's fast forward. Let's just get this job done. Let's go to the 2000s. Now we can say that consumer behavior was adapting at about, let's just say, 100 miles per hour. The internet is becoming more popular. Sales companies are popping up everywhere. Call centers really took a boost. The mortgage boom had begun. And you had an increase of probably hundreds and hundreds of thousands of sales agents working in retail and on the phone and over the internet by chat, et cetera, writing emails and copy, bombarding consumers with what they've learned in sales, okay? Now let's fast forward to like 2008. And I say 2008 because right around 2008, there was a massive change in consumer behavior. Some people say it was because of the recession. Some people say it was just a tipping point for technology. But basically, it's a combination of all of these things. So in 2008, consumer behavior started to change at, let's say, 200 miles per hour. Now, what's wrong with that? The problem is that we were conditioned to learn and to adapt at 55 miles per hour. So we took sales tools that we acquired here that were passed down to us, and we continue to use them after 2008. And what I found in all these companies I've been to is, you see how big this gap is? See how big this gap is? There's a huge gap between how customers want to actually buy, how they want to buy, and how they actually are sold. Okay, so I'm like thinking to myself, how can I better explain this to people? How can I better explain this to people? So one of the things you do when you're a coach is you try to come up with rules and guidelines for people to follow. And this is a big rule I want you guys to take down. You should write this down or put it in your phone or fucking memorize it or something, okay? The new rule is this: modern consumers do not want the feeling of being sold. Here's what they do want. They want to be understood and to understand. We have to first completely understand all of their needs before we start pitching or using the same language we always do. And then they have to completely understand what we're recommending, not pitching. And this has nothing to do with going over the quality of your product or the quality of your loan or the benefits involved or the problem solving, et cetera, et cetera. You have to completely understand what it is that their priorities are through your conversational skills, evaluation, through your intake, through your handshake, et cetera. And then you've got to use what you've learned from them, about them, and help them to completely understand why your solution or your product or your service is the best decision for them. So this no longer becomes a sales pitch. In many industries, this becomes a decision-making process, a communication process designed to completely understand your customer and then, in retrospect, have them or help them to completely understand what you recommend for them. So here's what I do. I mean, like, how do you make those changes, Joe? So now you got me all confused. So what do I do now? Well, let me grab my eraser. I'll give you guys a few tips on what you should do. You guys like that, huh? You like that when I shake it. You like it, you like it. I know you like it. I know you like it. All right, let's be real. So a couple things you need to focus on. Number one, you need to take a look at the language that you use with your conversations with your customers. From the greeting to the questions you ask, all the way to the close. I bet you 90% of your language is standard in your industry. I bet you. I bet you. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. 90% of the language you use is similar to almost every single sales agent in your industry. Challenge me on that. I dare you. So you need to work on your language. What I recommend is coming up with unique ways, to be more meaningful, to your customers. All right? Number two, ask yourself, does my close use language, techniques, etc., that are very common in my industry or passed down. Remember I gave you guys the feel, felt, found analogy earlier? So does your close sound very similar to everyone else in your industry? Are the steps, even the sequence of events, the same as other people in your industry? I bet you they are. So take a look at that and try to reorchestrate or make your language unique in your close. Now, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an extra bonus here. One of the ways to create a very powerful close is to make sure you ask a lot of quality questions during your conversation. Now, all of you are going to say, oh, I know that, Joe. Everybody knows that. That's not unique. Okay, listen. Even the questions that you're asking might be the same as everybody else in your industry. So, for example, if you're in your industry, you take an application on people, I don't mean the questions that are on your application, okay? Because 90% of your industry asks all those questions too. You need to ask better questions to probe the priorities and the underlying needs, the true needs of your customers, okay? The number one rule of influence is, in order to influence people, you need to know what already influences them, not what influences you, not what you think the benefit or the solution is. You need to find out what influences them instead of going through your standardized close where you close everybody kind of the same way. Number two, ask yourself, are you asking unique questions? Are you asking more meaningful questions? I recommend asking 7 to 10 more questions than your competitors. 7 to 10 more meaningful. What I mean by meaningful. In some industries, what meaningful means is more measurable. Questions having to do with time or money or the problem, going back in time and forward in time, because those are the things that ultimately are going to influence people. When you overemphasize, here's number 3 for you. This is another big one. There's a lot of entrepreneurs out there struggling with this one. When you overemphasize the quality of your product, the quality of your service, or the quality of your solution, what happens is the person starts to question that. So here's another rule for you. Anything you overemphasize becomes questionable. If I overemphasize how good of a coach I am and how great of a reputation I have and what great results I have, that becomes questionable, and you want to leave and you want to think about it and go research. So when you overemphasize the quality of your product, your service, I don't care if you're a cosmetic surgeon or a mortgage company or a retail store and you're really proud of your fabrics, or a designer or whatever it is that you sell. When you overemphasize and you focus too much on the quality of your product or service, the customer is likely to go into a resistant state. So instead of overemphasizing the quality of your service, what you really want to do is overemphasize how the answers to the questions that you asked help the customer to understand why this decision or this product is the best product for them. You get it? Let's do a little recap. In a nutshell, most of your sales skills are outdated. And let's not go overboard. Let's not be unrealistic. I don't mean you're not closing business. Okay, that's not what I mean. Of course you're closing business. You're just not closing nearly as much as you should be closing. Now, I have a reputation for helping improve sales agents' income by anywhere from 30% all the way up to 300%. What that really means is helping to double and triple their conversion ratio. Their conversion ratio. When you double and triple conversion ratio, your cost per lead comes down. You're not as burnt out at the end of the week. Your retention on salespeople is much, much, much better. Your progression, your confidence on their sales floor is a lot better, and so forth. Conversion ratio is king. I'm going to be doing these episodes almost every week, and I'm sure some of you have noticed that the topics right here are pretty broad. They apply to everyone. But as we go, I'm going to be getting more and more and more detailed, and I'm also going to have some people join me on the show so that they can talk about some of the challenges that they've had in their business and how we've overcome them. These will be actual clients of mine here to speak about their experiences, what we changed, and what the impact was. All right, so that's going to be helpful. Also, I'm going to be launching an academy called Top Producers Academy. It's TPA within the next 2 weeks or so. That's going to be an opportunity for the masses to enroll in this membership at a very, very moderate monthly rate. The reason I'm offering that is because over the years, dozens and dozens and dozens of people and friends and acquaintances have come to me and asked, Joe, how do we get coaching from you? And I'm like, guys, I don't do one-on-one coaching. They're like, well, our company doesn't want to do it, or they're not paying for it, or I don't have time. And I'm like, that's fine. Give us some time. I'll have a product coming out on the internet pretty soon. So for all of you who want professional coaching but can't pay the $3,000 to $10,000 a month for it, I'm going to have the Top Producers Academy cater to all of you, where we're going to do 1 to 2 workshops per month. I'm going to give you exercises. Excuse me. This is what happened when you talk all week. 16 appointments in 1 week. I'm going to give you guys exercises to try and practice on your sales in detail so that I can help you to improve your conversion ratio. And then after a week or two, we're going to discuss that in private Facebook community. I'll answer a lot of questions right there in the Facebook community. And then I'll be doing some live streams privately only to the Top Producers Academy members. And I'll launch it in a little bit. Give you guys a little estimation. It would be the cost of like a dinner for 2. Dinner for 2, that's about what it's going to cost per month. So a lot of you out there know, you've heard a lot of us gurus saying that you don't invest in yourself. Well, a lot of these things out there cost $1,500, $2,000, $5,000 to attend. So I'm like, I don't want to go that route for everybody. I want, the average Joe like me who was at home years ago just trying to improve their game and make ends meet. I want pretty much everybody in the country to be able to afford the Top Producers Academy. And when we launch it, I'm actually going to have, I think Eli and I were planning a pre-launch, which is the first 50 members will have a significantly reduced rate for the lifetime of their membership, as long as they stay on. And these classes will accumulate over time too. They'll accumulate, and within 12 months there'll be dozens and dozens of things that you have access to that you can watch and repeat and study and take notes and practice in your business and in your sales. Guys, if you don't know my story, I moved to California homeless about 15 years ago. I shouldn't say homeless, I actually lived in a car. It's not that I didn't have a family that I could go to, it's just that my family was in Illinois and I didn't want them to hear some of the struggles I was going through. I just didn't want that added stress in the family. And I realized from one sales job to another that although I hit number 1 sometimes and number 2, and I tend to do fairly well regardless of the career that I'm in, I'm not as good, or I wasn't as good as I thought I was. And I had a lot of ups and downs. I mean, it seemed like I was making money one minute, and then the next minute I wasn't, and I was struggling again. And that roller coaster ride just got old. So please make sure you put it on your calendar every Friday around 11:30, 11:45, as we're trying to perfect some of the technology here. We're going to be on Top Producers Only, bringing you hardcore information to not only wake you up. Today was kind of a wake-up call, making you curious, helping you to ask questions. You should be thinking right now, why do I sell the same as everybody else? I have a personality. I have other questions that could be asking, all right? In a few weeks, I'm going to be offering a private phone number so that you guys can call in to TPO, Top Producers Only, and ask specific questions, but you have to be a member of the TPO VIP list. So when we post this on YouTube, probably by tomorrow morning, I think, when we post it on YouTube, there'll be a link down there in which you can join the VIP list for TPO so you can get access to that phone number. Really what happens is you email in and you get access to the topic that we're going to discuss. And based on that topic, you get to email us questions. And if we choose your question, then we send you the phone number and you can call right in during the show. And we'll be going live right here and I'll be answering your questions and troubleshooting whatever it is that you need to help take you to the next level right here live for everybody else to see. Okay, guys? So once again, don't make a big deal out of it. It is true, most of your sales skills are outdated. All you have to do is spend some time off the court, spend some time practicing, role-playing with your people, even at home with your husbands and wives or girlfriends or boyfriends. Practice having better quality conversations with your customers and ask yourself, the way that I introduce myself, the questions that I ask, are they turning away 88% of my business, like Joe said? Ask yourself, be honest with yourself, okay? Number 2, the language that I use. Do I sound the same as everybody else in my industry? Do I sound the same? And I promise you, most of you do. Questions, 7 to 10 better questions, getting to understand your customer's unique needs. Peel back the onion a little bit. The basic goals they have are not enough. You need to find out what their true deep down needs are. 7 to 10 questions. I'll talk about why I say 7 to 10 questions later on. Quality. Don't focus too much on the quality of your product. If your product is good quality or your service is amazing, mention it once and move on. When you overemphasize quality, the perception about your price becomes expensive, and the questionability about your quality becomes kind of a big gray area. And people want to go on the internet and do research and that type of thing. So don't focus on those things. Work on this a little bit. Next week, I'm going to have a topic that actually follows up on this topic. So guys, please stay tuned. I know there's only a handful of you logged in right now. Let's not even worry about that. I'm not watching followers and likes and all this stuff right now. My goal is to get Top Producers Only to 100 episodes by the end of the year, which means I'm going to have to double up here pretty soon and do 2 episodes a week, which will probably be something like a Wednesday and Friday, or maybe a Tuesday and Thursday. We'll have to see. But Friday seems a good day for now. Schedule this in your calendar. I'm just keeping it real. Like, this is nothing formal. I'm literally here at my condo in Orange County and just talking to you guys straight up right now. But schedule it in your calendar at 11:30. Just know that TPO is on. Grab your lunch, grab your sandwich, find a computer screen, or just grab your cell phone and log in. Throw your headphones on and let me rap with you for a little bit. The quality of our episodes are obviously going to get better over time. It's not a big deal. I'm not too concerned about that, but I just wanted to start rolling this out so I can finally communicate with the masses and all the people that have been hitting me up and asking, when are we going to finally get to know some of the things that you talk about, some of the things that you demonstrate, some of the things that you coach on? And I'm kind of unleashing that step by step right here. So pay attention. Next week, Friday, 11:30, I'll let you know what the topic is, probably by Wednesday afternoon. It'll be a follow-up to this one, and I promise you it'll be good. I'm going to get more and more detailed as we go. I'll have guests on the show as we go that I've actually helped double and triple their business. I'm also going to have that phone number accessible if you guys are on the VIP list. Here within the next couple of weeks, we'll get that rocking as well so that you can I can answer your questions. You can send those questions in and I can answer them live here with you talking to me right here on a whiteboard, literally in my living room. And that's going to be a lot of fun. I really, really love that stuff. I do it all day long, obviously. By Friday, if you guys haven't noticed, just slam my microphone right there. My voice is super raspy. It is done. My throat is done. I have been running my mouth for like 8 to 10 hours a day at like intensity level 10 at all of my clients. So bear with me. Maybe I should drink some tea before we start these shows. I don't know. But thank you for joining me. If you've come, I'm going to put some information below. If you're watching this video on YouTube, I'm going to put some information below to follow up on things that you need to do to become more interactive with me. And guys, if you see my video, I'm asking you, I got to get used to this. I'm asking you guys to throw some comments. You can even say hello. You can say, I want more. You can say, how do I get access to the list? You can chat, whatever you want. Likes, shares, comments help the engagement to go up so that the algorithms help to boost the episodes online. That's the straight up truth. And it motivates us as coaches and trainers and mentors to keep going, because when we don't get feedback from you guys, we're kind of like, honestly, we're like, is anybody paying attention? Like, is anybody watching this? And I know people are watching it. I know people are benefiting from it. But comment below so that you give us also that inspiration here. You guys can inspire me, and I'll inspire you and teach you as much as I possibly can. I've been researching and developing content for 12 years. 12 years to solve the problems and frustrations that I've had in sales, and I'm going to help you to do the same thing. I'm over 300 companies deep right now, somewhere over 30,000 people mentored behind closed doors, and I'm going to bring you a lot of that right here on Top Producers Only. So if you're live right now, thank you. I love you. God bless you guys. Be safe. Have fun. Spend some extra time with your family this weekend, because it's not forever. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.